After starting the Just Cause video game series recently, I discovered a lot of hate for the first title in online reviews and discussion forums. I was surprised to see it as I was playing through Just Cause 1 at the time and enjoying it pretty well. So finding this situation quite curious, I decided to forego doing a normal review of the game and instead dive into what's the deal with all this dislike by comparing it to the sequel, Just Cause 2, which people clearly like a lot more. Did the sequel really improve on what was introduced in the first that much? The short answer is yes, but I want to dive into the deeper whys of how Just Cause 2 is better, so stick around if you want to find out what exactly I think it is that makes the sequel so much better than the first game. Let's start with what Just Cause is about. You step into the shiny shoes of Rico Rodriguez, an American secret agent who works for an agency known only as the Agency. He gets sent to small countries around the world to help take down rising dictators from the inside. Just your usual meddling by the American government. Rico does his work by teaming up with guerrilla revolutionaries, gangs, and drug cartels to kill the dictators' goons and blow up all their stuff. And this is done with the power of guns, small bombs, and a multitude of vehicles. It's basically a cool action dude simulator with a dash of questionable ethics as you destroy innocent villages in big explosions that supposedly help end the dictatorship somehow. Ethics aside, the chaos is the main point of Just Cause. It's literally the name of a mechanic in the sequels, so you can tell it's all about the action here. I want to begin then by talking about the main game mechanics that Just Cause introduces in the first game, because if the game is all about action, it should be good action, right? The guns and grenades are utilized a lot as you're constantly being chased by angry police, but the combat actually isn't the main point of Just Cause. No, I believe Just Cause is all about the more unconventional methods of travel. Thus you start the game with parachuting, because that's a way of traveling you're expected to use a lot throughout the game. You'll be driving around via motorcycle, helicopter, or airplane, and then you're expected to jump out with your parachute either to land on the ground or preferably on a different vehicle if possible. It's all about finding creative ways to escape from your enemies like that, or you can steal their copters and tanks. That's why you can drive literally any vehicle you come across, even if you took it from an innocent bystander. Now this is where there's our first issue with Just Cause 1. It's all about the vehicles, the stunts, flying around in the air. But all of that is admittedly glitchy and hard to control. I found that the parachute is nearly impossible to move around decently, the cars slide around the street like the wheels are made of butter, and copters and planes explode at the slightest bump. When you'll be spending ages traveling in the game, because this map is larger than real-world Singapore, driving clunky cars gets old fast. Helicopters and airplanes travel around more quickly, but is still very tedious, especially when they opted not to provide much background music. I wish they could have included a car radio, like in GTA or even in Fortnite. Being relatively quiet with the long drives does make it a good game for casual multitasking, though. I watched a lot of movies in the background while playing Just Cause 1. Yes, I am a chronic multitasker. I admit I have a problem if I have to watch movies and play video games at the same time. Outside of your main missions, it mainly becomes a driving game with a lot of annoying fights mid-trip, because police will frequently start chasing you for no reason. Then you'll steal some random car to escape that can't handle all the tight turns on the islands of San Esperito, or enter a helicopter that will randomly explode. That was an annoying glitch I found. Tough luck if you have to jump out of a vehicle without another one nearby, because Rico's legs can't run very fast on these big islands, and the parachute is rarely helpful. There's a grapple hook tool that seems like it's supposed to help with that, but I completely agree with what user Kawoosh23 said in their review on Steam. Forget the grapple hook. It's a disaster and should be avoided at all costs. Yeah, I'm agreeing with most negative reviews, even though I personally loved playing this game. Genuinely. I think Just Cause 1 was a great source of lighthearted fun with a good level of challenge too. It's surprisingly addictive even though it's repetitive, and I found some charm beneath it all. The part that confused me was how skippable people think Just Cause 1 is, not just bad. I knew the game had problems, but I didn't think it was bad enough to never touch. However, you've got folks on game forums saying that it's not worth playing. How much better could the sequels be to warrant this harsh view, I wondered. So of course I started Just Cause 2 to figure out how the series fixed all its old problems, and along the way I realized just how much Just Cause truly discovered itself. During the first few hours of Just Cause 2, I could immediately tell how much better it is. The number one reason was that the flow of travel was majorly improved by the new style of grapple hook, which is way more user-friendly. I never used the tool in the first game, but I'm constantly using it in this one. And instead of the clunky travel of being in one car until it breaks, running along slowly until I find another one, rinse and repeat, I can easily glide around with a grappling hook to easily move from vehicle to vehicle, and even find myself willingly opening the dreaded parachute, because it too is so vastly improved. It actually makes sense for once. With that, some better vehicle handling, and I think maybe even faster flying speeds, getting around the similarly large map is far less tedious. Instead of just stomping around slowly, I can easily get around wherever I want in a really fun and fluid way. Wow, I don't hate moving anymore! That's good news for an action game. They really improved almost everything with the sequel. They made missions more diverse, the game is less repetitive, and even the map and terrain is more varied than in Just Cause 1, which makes traveling actually feel like you're going somewhere new, keeping things fresh. In the first game, every area of San Espirito pretty much looked the same. But in Pinau, in the second game, you've got beaches, you've got deserts, you've got forests, you've got snowy mountains. It's pretty cool. The improved visuals are also a big plus, which look pretty good for a 2010 game, I think. And it's also a huge improvement from the first game, which looked good on Xbox and PC for its time, but comparatively horrendous on the PS2, which is the version I played. Yikes, this looks really bad in comparison. What is it about the PS2 that warranted this? I wasn't a fan of how they added money to the game in the sequel, as that was something I was very happy to have absent in the first title, but it's not too annoying, and the extra explosion possibilities really make up for any other slight downfalls. There's so much trouble you can cause and different stunts to create for yourself that it's impossible to be bored by Just Cause 2. Most sequels try to improve on the original, right? And Just Cause 2 achieved that. But it went beyond. Just Cause 2 isn't just a better version or extension of the first game, and I hope I can explain what I mean here for you all in a way that's easy to understand. Professional reviews point out that the story of Just Cause is very short, and you can easily complete it in a few quick hours. And the story of Just Cause 2 isn't overly deep either, though they definitely add a lot more dialogue and characters. So the sequel didn't really glam up the plot, but as Game FAQ's user ThrillKillFan points out, to me, this series is about the random fun you can make for yourself. Just Cause isn't about the plot. It's only there to provide context for why you can get away with all these crazy stunts you're doing. And those crazy stunts are what the game is all about. It's about hijacking vehicles and blowing stuff up, with more flair and finesse than the more smash and grab style of GTA, which many reviews compare Just Cause 1 to, because they're both about guns and stealing cars. And the fact that the first game is so easily comparable to others like GTA really amplifies the fact that Just Cause 2 really put in the work to develop the series into something unique. It no longer feels like as much of a copy and paste open world action game with cars and guns. The first game had its charms, but there wasn't much that was unique to it. By making the grapple hook a better and actually usable tool, and pairing that beautifully with the parachute and more vehicles, Just Cause gained its first way to stand out from the crowd with its gameplay. It gave us more to destroy and explore, and I think the lackluster story is actually to its benefit in that way, because it lets you feel even more free to wreak havoc however you please. You're not limited to what is structured in the story. Just Cause went from just mediocre Secret Agent Rico with clunky cars and clunky guns who feels almost helpless when he needs to get around places, to the nearly superhero-like Rico of Just Cause 2 who can soar around easily, take control of more weapons, explode large structures, and then easily catch onto a helicopter and make it out safely like an action hero god. That's what Just Cause was supposed to be all along, I feel. Maybe they didn't have the capacity to make the first game like that, or maybe they hadn't even quite figured out what direction they wanted to take at that point. But 4 years later, they definitely had figured it out. It's not about having a ton of repetitive side missions and items to collect to pad out the runtime. It's about the creativity to finish your missions however you want, even when it's not structured as a mission. Like when you're going around Pinau in Just Cause 2, you might find an army general or something that you can just kill to help create more chaos, but it's not actually part of a mission. So you're completely free to go about it however you want. Do you want to place bombs and try to dash out quickly before everything goes crazy, or do you want to grapple onto a helicopter, knock out the pilot, and shoot everything down with big guns? Do you want to get away from a car chase by jumping out in your parachute, or by hopping from car to car to slip away? Just Cause 2 figured out that the most valuable thing they could give to their open world game was open choice. There's so much more freedom by making missions less cookie cutter, by making travel faster and smoother with an actually good grappling hook, by making more in the environment interactable. Just Cause 1 was a very basic foundation for what the series could become, and they really pulled through and made it into a unique and good game. Do I think that Just Cause 1 is skippable after all of this? Admittedly, it almost is. You're not missing out on much if you do skip it. Just Cause 2 did the same thing as 1, but bigger and better in almost every way. Yet, I do think that there is a lot of charm in Just Cause 1. From the book regime change in 7 days, to the civilians gossiping in the background, to the passionate guerrilla fighters shouting, "Vive la Revolution!" I think that if you've never played the Just Cause series before, you should start with the first one, knowing that it is the worst objectively. If you first get good at the basic and glitchy gameplay of the first, you'll be even better at it when you start things more for real in the sequels. And if you have fun with the first one, you'll know that it only gets better from there. But if you've played the other games in the series except Just Cause 1, I do have to go along with what people say. In that case, it's not really worth playing. The series hadn't really discovered itself yet, so the game is admittedly weak and tedious after a certain point. But I definitely do recommend Just Cause 2 if you love action games. This thing is an absolute blast, and it's hard to believe it's over 10 years old now. It looks great, it's hard to put down because there's always something new to do, and how much cooler can it get when you can hijack your enemies' helicopters and then blow up their own fuel tanks? So all of this is how I think Just Cause improved itself in a bigger way than just fixing glitches and adding more content. In a deeper sense, they figured out how to be a unique series and form their own niche of stylistic action, standing out when there are so many other open-world action video games. I don't know how many other games let you jump from plane to car to boat, and more, without ever touching the ground. But they didn't have that in the original Just Cause. It took them some time to get there. And I think that it's interesting to look at how the biggest element of improvement wasn't just fixing glitchy, repetitive gameplay, but by making a smooth, free-form experience so different from the limitations introduced in the first. So we shouldn't just completely ignore Just Cause 1, because it perfectly showcases what makes Just Cause great by showing how it is more lackluster without that freedom and ease for players to do whatever they want. It set up a general idea, a concept, and then it was perfected a few years later. So thanks for joining me as I took a look at this idea. Hope you had a good time chilling out with me for a few minutes, because I sure had an absolute blast playing these games and loved getting to share it with you. I hope you all have a fantastically groovy rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video.
Barbecued pig, anyone?